So top 10 seem to be quite a fun thing going around at the moment. And I'm David from Loops and Lap Bars, and this is going to be my top 10 roller coasters that I have personally ridden. Obviously with the preface that it's all personal opinion, so what might be my favourite is not your favourite and vice versa. But that's what gets conversation started. I think it's always good fun to talk about what's good and what's not so good, why we like things, why we don't like things. So, starting off at number 10 with Osiris at Parc Asterix. Now this is a Bolliger and Mabillard inverted coaster operating at Parc Asterix since 2012. It stands at 131 feet tall, which is about 40 metres, has a drop of 114 feet at 35 metres and reaches speeds of 56 miles an hour, 90 kilometres an hour. It has 5 inversions, and the nice thing about this coaster on the whole is how smooth it is. It's a very comfortable ride from start to finish. It's quite well themed. We didn't unfortunately get to do the vast majority of the station because when we did it we actually fast passed it, so we got straight into the sort of the exit side. But from what we did see, it's very nice. The entire area that it's in is quite lovely, and when we did it, because we did it in Halloween, there's a show that plays, which includes pyrotechnics and lighting and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the ride has to shut down, but the station building and whatnot is projected onto lovely, and it's just a really nice area. And it's partly that's the reason why Oziris is on here and not things such as Black Mamba at Fantasyland, which is obviously also an excellent ride as well. But yeah, that's Oziris. It's comfortable, it's smooth, quite intense in places, looks great, very photogenic, and yeah, just an overall good ride. Up next at number 9, we're going to have Dragon Khan at Portaventura, which is another by Bolliger and Mabillard B&M roller coaster. Though this time it's a sit-down one as opposed to being an invert, and this one's been operating in the park since 1995, and at one time a day held the record for the most amount of inversions on a roller coaster with 8. Now what I like about Dragon Khan is the fact that it's as old as what it is, but it's not as rattly as what you might expect for its age. It's coming up 30 years, it'll be 30 years old next year. But it does have a little bit of knock here and there, but other than that, it does feel graceful in places, and it's about the only Cobra roll that I've ever been on that just had actually some force to it. The other loops are great, the corkscrews are good fun, the 0G roll was quite intense. It's just all round, it's a nice intense coaster, but not so much so that it's like, ugh. I quite enjoyed it. I think Tracy did as well. We rode it multiple times when we were at Portaventura last year. Queues weren't too long for it. There's not a massive amount of theming for the ride itself. It does have an excellent sort of skyline though to it. It's pretty much the sort of poster child of that and Shambhala for Portaventura. So yeah, that's Dragon Khan. Up next at number 8, we're heading to the UK for the fastest accelerating roller coaster on the planet, as it currently stands, Stealth at Thorpe Park. Now Stealth is an Intamin accelerator coaster, which is a family of roller coasters that I phenomenally adore. I've been openly vocal before about how much I enjoy Rita because of the launch. I love Stealth, and there's other roller coasters on this list that will appear a bit later on that are of the same family that just outdo Stealth in certain ways. But back to Stealth anyway. I love the design of the trains. I do wish it had lap bar restraints as opposed to having over the shoulders, because they seem completely unnecessary. But that seems to be a thing. There's other roller coasters in the UK, Smiler, that could very much do with not having over the shoulder restraints. But anyway, the station and whatnot, it's not really that massively themed. It has gone through a Sparkle project, and I've not seen it at the time of recording this. But from what I've seen on the internet, it does look like they've done quite a good job. Not only that, but they've also updated the acceleration statistics over the gate, which is very nice, because for long enough it was quoting 2.3 seconds, I think it was, from 0 to 80, when it now actually officially does 0 to 80 in 1.8 seconds. But Stealth is wonderful. It's very thrilling, and I'd very much like to one day get one of those legendary rollbacks, but hopefully that'll come in time. On to number 7 now, and keeping with the theme of launch roller coasters, as well as Intamin, we're going to go and talk about Taran at Fantasyland. So Taran is an Intamin LSM Blitz coaster, or Intamin Blitz as they're referred to. And it has 2 launches, the first of which is 49.7 miles an hour, or 80 kilometres, and the second is 72.7 miles an hour, or 117 kilometres. And it's this second launch that's probably the one to talk about, because not only is it taken at a rolling state, so the train doesn't stop before it launches, it just boots you up the track, but it's also the sheer noise that it makes. You can hear that from the entire area of Klugheim, and when you're on the train it's even more insane because it just reverberates around you. It's such a great noise. I'll put a sound clip of it in here for you so you can enjoy it for yourself. Such a wonderful noise, that, isn't it? So the area of Klugheim is wonderful. Taran intersects with the area lovely. No matter which way you look, there's a bit of Taran to look at and enjoy. It can be a bit confusing because the layout is so long. It intersects with itself 58 times, which apparently is a world record, but no one shouts about it. The trains are comfortable. The lap bars are very, very sort of comfortable as well. They keep you in place, but you've still got a little bit of movement, which is very nice. It doesn't staple you, it doesn't make you feel too loose. It's just the right sort of comfort levels. But Intamin tend to do that with their lap bars that I've found. So that's Taran. So coming in at number 6, it's going to be a return of the Intamin accelerators, and I do apologise for anybody who has massive disdain for this roller coaster, but it's Furious Baco at Portaventura World. So the big difference between this and say the likes of Stealth is that this is what's called a wing rider coaster. It's the only one of its type. Intamin never tried another one of these from the sounds of it, and I don't know why, but it differs from the likes of the B&M wing coasters in that the seats are elevated above the track and to the sides as opposed to being alongside it. So that does unfortunately mean that the seats are quite bouncy and it is an incredibly rough ride, but I didn't mind that in the slightest. I have got an on-ride video of us, and I'll try and put it up here, and it shows us being shaken around like ragdolls, but I like that. I think it's got a little bit of a charm to it as Furious Baco. It's got a stupidly insane theme to it where it's supposed to be a grape harvesting device or something like that, from what we understand, in a brewery. Absolutely insane. That launch is unlike anything else. Yes, Stealth is faster and Taran's is noisier and just wonderful, but Furious Baco, for whatever reason, it sits on the launch track, judders you about a bit, and then it just belts you down the track. It's also the shortest of the accelerator coasters. It only stands at 46 feet tall. It doesn't really have much height to it, but it does feature an inversion. It reaches 83.9 miles an hour, which is quite insane. I just like it. I know a lot of people don't, but yeah, that's Furious Baco. For number 5, we're going to return to the UK and talk about another ride that divides opinions somewhat, and that is the Smiler at Alton Towers. So if you didn't know already, the Smiler is the current world record holder for the number of inversions on a roller coaster at 14. I like that. That's not the reason for specifically saying, oh, that's the best roller coaster in the UK. I like the theme. I like the insane music to it. I like the fact that it's quite unique in the fact that it's sort of a mental asylum for people who've lost their smile to go back in and get their smile back by essentially being tortured to smile again. And some people refer to it as a torture device. They call it the shopping trolley, they call it all sorts of sort of names and things like that. And yes, it's far from the smoothest roller coaster on the planet, let alone the UK. And I think that would be alleviated at least a little bit by having lap bars. But I suppose that's a kind of a quirk of the Smiler. It's the only Gerstlauer Infinity coaster that features over-the-shoulder restraints. All the others have got lap bars, and I don't know why the Smiler needed to have over-the-shoulder restraints. Maybe they thought 14 inversions was a bit too much and that the over-the-shoulder restraints were required. But either way, I like it. It would be very nice if, in a couple of years' time or something like that, it did get the Nemesis Reborn treatment in that it was retracted certain parts. But as it currently stands, I enjoy it. It's a great fun ride, and it does have 2 of the best airtime hills in the country. So there is that. That's the Smiler. Heading back out to Europe again now for number 4, which is the first and only wooden roller coaster to make the list, which is going to be Troy at Toverland. Now, Troy is a Great Coasters International wooden coaster, as I already mentioned, that stands 105 feet tall, 31.9 metres, reaches top speeds of 54 miles an hour, or 86.9 kilometres an hour, and runs on a track length of 1,077 metres, or 3,534 feet. And this ride has some incredible pacing. It has a very good first drop, which then leads into a series of twists and turns, never really letting up. It judders around a little bit. It's got that standard sort of woody rattle to it, but it's not so much so that it's uncomfortable. There is one transition that is a bit sharp, but that's about it towards the end. but it's all made up for because of that station fly through. You can be boarding the train, and the second train that's on the course already will come flying through the station, and it makes an absolute racket. Another thing, I'll put it here. Here's the sound of it coming through the station. Very similar to Taran in the fact that it's one of those things I like for the noise. Troy stands out because of that. It's nicely themed. It's in a lovely sort of area. The Ithaca area of Toverland is quite pretty, and from my understanding, Troy's undergone some retracking as well in the recent months. So I'd like to get back out and see what they've done to it. But that's Troy, a truly great Coasters International wooden coaster. Ha! For number 3, we are heading to France, to Parc Astérix, to talk about Totas. And I promise that this will be the last of the Intamin coasters on this list. But Totas opened in 2023 last year to rave reviews, and I'm among those who reviews it in a raving fashion. It's comfortable, it's very smooth, the trains look great, it rides well, the launches are nice and snappy and things like that. It's everything you could expect from a modern Intamin, and then more so. I do like the swing launch. I do like the fact it fails to get the top hat the first time, so you get a rollback every time, then goes up the vertical spike, and then you get the launch over. It's the first stall that I ever went on, and that wasn't as uncomfortable as I was expecting it to be. I just wish it was a bit more photogenic at times, because a lot of the ride after the top hat is hidden away and you can't really get at it to take photos and such. But yeah, I like Totas. It's really, really good fun. I specifically like the station as well. I like the way that you load. You've got the choice of doing whichever row you want, and you queue for those rows. I like the way that the baggage is handled. So you put your bags in what are essentially themed trolleys, and they disappear off the station platform before you board. And then you'd pick them up on the way out, which alleviates the issues of people crossing over, trying to put their bags into storage and things like that. I like the LEDs in the station when it launches, and the LEDs that go into the trop. It's just, from start to finish, it's a very well-rounded coaster, very well themed, very good to ride, set in a lovely sort of themed area. Totas is just wonderful. Parc Astérix smashed it out of the park with this one. So if you haven't, get across to Parc Astérix and at least experience Totas. Such a great coaster. For my silver medal position, we're going to go back to Belgium, to Bobbejaanland, to talk about Fury. So Fury is another Gerstlauer Infinity coaster, only this time with the proper restraints. And the thing that makes Fury stand out amongst other coasters, specifically on this list, is there's an interactivity element to it, where you can queue to ride the train as you'd expect to, or you can queue to vote which way you'd like the train to launch. So if you go down that route, there's a button on the clamshell restraint that's either forwards or backwards. Depending on what the majority of the train wants, will decide whether the train launches forwards and does the layout forwards, or the better way, which is backwards, which is the first way that I got it, was my 150th coaster, and it was such a sort of privilege, if you will, to get to ride that coaster the first time backwards. It terrified Tracy, unfortunately, so I should really apologise to her for that one, but I enjoyed it from start to finish. And yes, it's probably not the biggest or scariest or most insane coaster on this list, but I like it because of that. I like the fact that, it kind of terrified Tracy a little bit, but I got to ride it the way that I wanted to ride it, and that sounds really selfish and whatnot, but yeah, I like it. I like the fact that you've got a choice of going forwards or backwards, or if you don't want to, you can just ride it forwards. It's multi-launch, the launches are quite punchy. There's not really much of a theme to it, and what was a bit of a shame was that apparently you can get on-ride video recordings of it, so the train has cameras that will point at you, but when we rode, that's the place where you'd pick them up from was closed, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, that's Fury. It's short and sweet, but it does what it does in such a small package incredibly well. So here we are, we've arrived at podium position, the gold medal, the cream of the crop, the best, the top of the top, ride to happiness at Plopsaland Japan. So this is the first and only Mack coaster that we get to talk about on this list, and it's one of only 2 currently standing Mack Extreme spinning coasters. I say that because the Plopsa group are planning on building another one at one of their other parks, which will be great. Apparently it's only going to be a clone of Ride to Happiness, which will be a bit of a shame, because it would be nice to get these coasters fully explored to their real potential. But you can't argue with having more of these things, more to go around. I really do wish that we had one of these in the UK. So anyway, on to the Ride to Happiness. It's themed around the Tomorrowland Electronic Dance Festival, which is a really unique thing to theme a ride to, but I don't think it hurts it in any way, shape or form. I do quite like the station. I do like the fact that it's got almost a steampunk-esque vibe to it, in that there's sort of robots and animatronics in the queue line and stuff like that. The area is very pretty. The trains look really, really nice, and as with a lot of other roller coasters on this list, it features lap bar restraints. Very similar to Icons, in fact. In fact, I presume that they are the same as Icons, it's just that the trains look ever so slightly different. So it means that you can experience the ride in its entirety with only the lap bar holding you in place, so it's very comfortable in that regard. It does also feature onboard audio, and the speakers are positioned right by your ears, so you cannot miss the excellent soundtrack that's been recorded by Tomorrowland for the ride. And yeah, as to the ride itself, it's got 6 inversions, the first of which is literally straight out the station, something referred to as a JoJo roll. Then takes you into the first launch, where you sit and wait for a couple of seconds as the sort of anticipation builds. The train then launches, and eddy current spinner will then spin the train, so you will always get spin, at least on the first launch, as you then make your way into the main bulk of the ride. Because the trains can spin, you could take any of the elements in any sort of direction that the train's rotated in. So sometimes you might do the vertical loop forwards, sometimes you might do it backwards. You might do the 0G roll going sideways, which I have done, and that is an incredible experience. And that's one of the sort of big sellers of rides like this, is they are incredibly re-rideable. Yeah, Stealth and Taran are going to give you very similar experiences over and over again. You might get a rollback on Stealth, but you will never do that top hat in any way other than forwards. Imagine doing that sideways or even backwards or something like that, and you've got a fair idea of what Ride to Happiness can offer. It's such a great ride, it's comfortable, it sounds great, it looks great, it's very photogenic. All the ride is on offer, so you can see it all at any given point. Like I say, there is very little that I would do to improve Ride to Happiness, so that's why it takes my number 1. So that's it, that's my top 10, and once again, it's my opinion, and you are welcome to agree with me or disagree with me. If you do disagree with me, let me know down below what you think is better than Ride to Happiness, or as to why I'm a fool for thinking that Furious Backhoe is as good as what it is. But I am expecting my list to be shaken up at least a little bit. It's part of the reason for why I've recorded this when I have done now. Because in June we're doing another European road trip, and this time we're visiting a fair few more parks than we did last time, and all but one are going to be new to us, such as Movie Park Germany, Hansa Park, Heidi Park, Slagharan, Drievlit, Bellewaerde, which I think is how you pronounce that, but all of those have got such new things for us to experience. And coasters I'm expecting to do well on my list are Schwer Kanen at Hansa Park, Star Trek Operation Enterprise and Van Helsing's Factory at Movie Park, even Gold Rush at Slagharan, the little parks. They've all got something great to look forward to, and I just can't wait to get there to see what my list looks like after we've done it. So that's not to mention as well that we've got Hyperia as well at Thorpe Park to look forward to, because we're hopefully doing that on the way back up. I'm not expecting great things from it, but you never know. At this point, I could be incredibly surprised. It could be the best roller coaster in the UK. It could even be one of the best roller coasters on my list, but we'll see what that says. So I've been David from Loops and Lap Bars. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think of this sort of video, because I've not done one of these before, apart from obviously the awards ceremony, but that was really long and convoluted. But yeah, thanks for getting all the way through to the end of the video, and like I say, like, comment, subscribe, all the usual bump. Thank you very much.